I think for me, the biggest change was the fact that before I was unhappy, after I was happy. And it was because of that encounter. It was literally, I went to a confession. After that confession, I was just filled with joy. And I was like, I've never experienced this joy before.
I want to hang on to this.
I want to keep
Yeah.
this. It might be hard to keep it, but I want to.
Hello and welcome to The Way. I'm Wendy Grace. Well, we're going to be continuing our discussion with young people who share with us about their faith, their life, where God is in it all. And my next guest is going to be doing that, but also telling us about the year that he's just spent as a missionary with Net Ministries, where they reach out to young people in particular to share faith and to grow in faith themselves, of course. It's great to have with us in the studio Daniel Hogan. Daniel, thanks for being with us.
Thanks very much, Wendy.
We'll hear about Nat shortly, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Was faith something that was always kind of you were brought up with in your family, or something you came to later in life? How did it
Yeah.
all work?
So I am from a family of 8. So I have 5 siblings. My mother's Hungarian and my dad's Irish. And thankfully, both my parents were brought us up in the faith. They're both very practicing. We would have grown up sort of helping out the priest with parish duties and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, so growing up, we would have been instilled with a sort of sense of this is important. This is something that you guys should cherish.
And was there ups and downs in that? I was only having lunch the other day, and sitting opposite me was a table of probably lads that were in maybe fourth or fifth year, so 16, 17. And I was looking at them, imagining my own sons down the line being that age, going, "Oh, how am I going to keep them in their faith?" Was there a tug of war for you, or was that kind of witness of your parents something that was enough to kind of keep you going?
No, so by roughly around first year, so that's what, 12, 13.
The teenage years,
Yeah,
yeah.
I got a lot of slack for it, especially from the likes of the sports and school. So, because we were sort of known as the Holy Joes in our parish.
So you
So
were slagged, yeah.
slag basically, yeah, and that caused me sort of to have a rift with my faith and sort of shy away from it for a few years. And then around 15, me and 2 of my siblings were invited along to a retreat called Camp Veritas, which is an American-led retreat in Clongowes in Kildare. And me and one of my siblings had a really profound encounter with the love of Christ.
Wow. So you were kind of going to this retreat going, I haven't really been into this for a few years, didn't really like the slagging. It's also a really challenging time. Like you're
Yeah,
starting secondary school,
yeah.
you're hitting the teenage years, all the hormones, all the peer pressure that's
Mm,
hitting you.
mm.
How did your life change then after that?
So leading up to that, I made a lot of things, I guess, my godlike popularity, looks. I based a lot of my worth off the friends that I had
The kind of
and
superficial stuff.
superficial
Yeah.
stuff that doesn't last. And them sports. I was playing a lot of sports as well at the time. And then with that encounter with, at that Catholic retreat, it was sort of this is all going to come to pass. And there's something far more profound and something far more beautiful that all of us can receive as a gift for free, and that is the gift of faith. And so, after accepting that, I guess everything sort of took a U-turn of all the things that I took, that made me feel accredited or made me feel like I belonged. They were, popularity didn't become something that I cared about. It was interesting in a few weeks it sort of flipped upside
Was
down.
there freedom in that?
There was so much freedom.
Because a lot on the outside, people might say, "Wow, Daniel, he's tall, dark, and handsome, and sporty, and he's got friends, and he's popular, and that's what we're supposed to
Yeah,
want," But it does have a whole a control
yeah,
of you in terms of trying to
100%.
live up to that
Yeah,
God, as it were. So
yeah. No, I think for me the biggest change was the fact that before I was unhappy, after I was happy, and it was because of that encounter. It was literally I went to a confession. After that confession, I was just filled with joy, and I was like, I've never experienced this joy before.
I want to hang on to this.
I wanna keep
Yeah.
this. It might be hard to keep it, but I wanna
How
keep
do you
it.
keep that fire? Because I know, thinking back to similar experiences myself, where I'd go to say a U2000 retreat or something,
Mm,
you're on fire in the
yeah,
moment, and then boom, you're back in normal everyday life,
yeah.
where you are trying to, where you know you're not alone, but you can't feel lonely. So how
Yeah.
did you keep the fire in your belly?
Community. Yeah, I think that was the number one. I mean, I went back. The school I went to. It was me and my one of my siblings, and then maybe 4 or 5 other people who really took the faith seriously, or who would be open. You'd see a few of them at mass, but you ask anything or it comes up in conversation or
Head
anything.
down, say
Yes,
nothing.
exactly. And I was also like that sometimes, even after that. Still shied away sometimes. But by around fifth or sixth year, taking that initiative to be like, no, this is something I'm proud of, and this is something I want to fight for and keep.
And what
Uh,
was the response when you got that courage to just say, "This is who I am," you know?
um, it was usually positive. There was some people who'd argue with you just simply for the argument, but in general, like any young person, they're curious.
You found you got respect for
I
you just
did.
being who you
I
are.
did, yeah. I remember actually there was one stage where a few of my friends, they were like, that it was actually not long after, it was because it was during the summer that I went to that retreat, and they're like, Daniel, you've changed. They didn't fully understand, and it was a very quick sort of jokey thing, but they didn't fully understand. You're like, you've changed. They didn't say what I had changed, but they just
They
said you've
just sense
changed. Yeah.
something different, yeah.
Which I suppose they all crave as well.
That
Yeah.
that's something, yeah, that I think, and again, I've heard it so many times, and I'm sure you've experienced it through your mission year with
Yeah.
Net, is people are attracted to that joy
Yeah.
that sometimes just emits from someone who has a relationship with God. And it's not anything that you're saying or a particular action. They just kind of go, oh, there's a spark in that person or a
Yeah.
peace. I think I want it. And it's powerful.
Mm.
So fast forward a little bit now, Daniel, because you're coming to the end of this year with Net
Yeah.
Ministries. So did
100%.
you finish school and then go straight into this
Yes.
year?
So I'm 19 as well. So I just done the Leaving Cert last year and then joined that.
So how did you know that this was for you? Giving up a year of your life to be a
Yeah.
missionary,
Yeah.
essentially, at a time where a lot of other young people will be starting college or going off
Yeah.
traveling or doing different
Yeah.
things. It's a big sacrifice, isn't it?
hmm It is. I guess what made I'm from County Westmeath, as I said, and beside the parish next door is where one of the net teams actually have been. It's Delvin. That's where the net team has been for the last 13 years. And I got to know them especially over the last few years, and seeing that the community, the banter, and how much they uplift each other, how it's hard, like anyone's faith journey, but how much they uplift each other. I was like, I really desire that. I still have normal desires, like I want to get a job, make money, get a house, get married, la di da da. But seeing the joy that they have in giving back what they've received, in its hardship, but seeing that joy, I was like, I want that. I want to do that.
And that's a really beautiful way of putting it, because not even probably say my mother's generation, it was very much, you go to mass because you have to.
Yeah,
That was the way it was taught. But you're very much, it's not it seems to me your faith, it's not, I want you to believe what I believe because I want you to be like me. It's, I want you to have this experience
yeah,
of joy.
mm, yeah,
You deserve it.
yeah. I think for especially on this year of Net, one of the things that I realized was one of the most efficient ways for me personally to um, be a witness was just to be present and do everything that I normally do.
Yeah,
But
you're not going in with an agenda.
no,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And I'm not going in saying you have to convert or else, but just living a normal life and them seeing that extra bit of joy, even the ups and downs, like anybody, but seeing that extra bit of joy that they have, and then people slowly but surely start to be like, "Hey, what's going on here? What's
And
different
there,
about you?"
you want them to ask
Yeah,
you the questions.
yeah.
Is that the key then? And obviously you've had so many experiences over the last years. It's about proposing,
Mm.
not imposing our faith.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think even just thinking back to the conversations that I've had with people, and even before I sort of had that encounter, thinking back to conversations I would have at times with friend groups, it was always just the curiosity of people that they would question and stuff like that. What drew me in the most, everyone's curious and everyone strives to be loved and to feel joyful.
Yeah,
That's,
it's written on our hearts.
amen.
What
Yeah.
were what was the overall experience or highlights? If you could, I know it's probably hard to sum up, but if you could pick a few.
Of net,
Yeah.
um, community, uh, mighty crack. It's just the banter is just every day. Um, highlights.
What about the young people you encountered? Was there an openness there?
There was, especially for me, one of my favorite things was the youth group. So it's quite a big youth group in that parish for as youth groups go these days. But slowly but surely seeing them even talk more to us. So a lot of what we do, we sort of do half faith stuff and then half football and other activities, and just see them slowly open up to each of us and be like, "Whoa, these people, are normal. These people are aren't strange. They're not trying to say we have to do this or else. They're just living a normal life and yet they're so joyful." And the curiosity eventually did question. There was one occasion where a young guy came up to Maria and was like, "Oh, we're not going to the church today. Oh, I really wants to go." And just even seeing those
The
little,
growth in
the
them as
growth
well.
and that is
Yeah.
just so uplifting. It's because you're like, wow, this because everyone can doubt at times and be like, wow, this is working.
Authentic.
This is
Yeah.
authentic. This is listening. They're learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been lovely just to learn about you and your year in that, Daniel, and your own personal faith as well. Thanks so much for being with us
Thank
on
you
the
very
way
much.
today. And thank you for joining us as well.